next. Okay.
Well, look who's here.
We'll continue. We'll continue next month.
Hi,
Hello,
Blair. It's
Kira.
good to see you.
Hi, everybody. Nice to
Yay.
see
Hey,
you
Blair.
Hi,
too.
Blair.
Yeah. So how's it over there on the other side of the world? So,
Well, they're
It's
they're all spread
crazy.
out in this group.
oh, they're all spread out. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So, oh, well, we got a
Got
awesome
Melbourne. We got
Melbourne.
Vienna. Got
Oh, okay.
Colorado. We've got California. We've got London.
Oh,
We
there
have
you go.
Texas
And
We're
Maine.
and
in Maine.
Maine. Almost forgot you, Mary Lee.
Oh, well, we've got a United Nations of souls. So that's nice. So you all good?
Yes, nice to
We
see you.
are. It
Yeah.
is
No.
lovely to see you. We were just
Oh,
talking about
Mhm.
even if we've had individual sessions with you, it's been a few years.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it has. Yeah. Well, lots been happening, in the world and with us all, etc. So I've just had 2 months away overseas. So I went and visited some good friends of mine in Holland, and then I did a group spiritual tour in Egypt, which was
Nice.
just magic, absolutely magic. Yeah. So I don't know if any of you have ever been to Egypt before, but yeah, it was really sacred, and it was hot. It was about 45 degrees every day, but you know, but it was just perfect. We had a really good group, and yeah, we even did a 3-day Nile cruise, which was amazing. And I actually could have done the whole trip on the cruise. It was just extraordinary because it wasn't one of those big giant cruises. It was a small private yacht that was built to look like an old Egyptian barge. And
Wow.
and you know how the pharaohs used to go down in their barges, and they would sit up the top there. So it was built like that. But basically the best way to describe it is the Orient Express on a boat. So
Fabulous.
yeah, it
Mhm.
was. It was absolutely amazing. And it was all open because it was just so warm. But, as you're just quietly going down the Nile and you're looking at all these ancient temples and people just going on doing their stuff, every day, and yeah, it was amazing, doing meditations under the stars and yeah, just the feeling of it and the vibe of it. And yeah, it
The
was just,
spiritual work must have been amazing.
oh, look, the vibe of some of these places. Uh, it just holds, things hold history. And obviously as souls, we all hold history too. But some of these buildings were just absolutely, it was like a library in stone, basically. And we see these big temples as they are now, which are, of course, the same color as the desert and they're all eroded and stuff. But of course, originally they were all painted. And so there's still remnants of a lot of the paint in some of the buildings. So these temples were white and blue and ochre colors and greens and of course all the hieroglyphics were also painted as well. So they didn't actually
Right.
look like stone.
Right.
And we went to a temple called the Temple of Dendara. And when the moment I walked into the area and I could see it, I just got a memory, a flash of how it used to be. And I could see green lawns. I could see the temple in its glory and all its color. And of course, the Nile, has changed its course many times over history. And so it was closer to the temple than what it is now. And if there ever was a feeling I had about past life, it was in the Temple of Dendara. And as I walked into this enormous area with these huge columns, again, this is flash of memory, and I could just see what the rooms were all used for. And they had like really weird rooms. Suddenly you would take a corner and there would be this little tiny room, and then some little staircases, and then you would have to squeeze through sort of a little hole like that. And then there would be another little room in there. And you think, what was this used for? and so of course I had to check it all out basically. So I would go in there, and it's hot as anything, but I squeezed myself through. And the moment I stood in this little room, you could feel the vibes straight away. Every hair on my arms just went zoom, just like that. It was just this frequency that was there. And I know some
Wow.
were used for sound chambers, and there's one area where you could lean in like this, and the moment you did that, you heard a hum. And so when I heard the hum and I stepped back, you couldn't hear it. You heard the hum, and I asked Tabaash, what is that? And he says, you're hearing the soul of the earth. And
Wow.
and so it's just that vibration. You're hearing that. And of course, all the ancients, they knew how to position all these things in a way where they're able to tap into these frequencies and these energies. And there's one in particular area which it was a very long room, very high, and everything was covered in hieroglyphics, even the ceiling. And right at the end was this big stone square that had been carved out to look like a chair. And it was very shiny inside. And the moment I saw that, I again got this memory of if you sat in that chair, then you were able to alter your state of consciousness and go into other frequencies and other dimensions. And if you were aligned enough, then you could actually transport your whole physical into another realm of consciousness. And so it was all gated off though. You couldn't get in there. So of course I go in there and I got to go and sit in this chair. I just know I have to be in here. Anyway, so I had a chat to our guide, and he had a little bit of a chat to the guide and gave him a little bit of money. And so he unlocked the gate, and I was just in there straight away. And so I sort of sat in there, not expecting anything, but just felt this vibe of energy just going through me. And I mean, I could have sat there for ages and ages and ages, but yeah, just things like that. And everyone who was on the group, it was about 20, just had the most extraordinary experiences. It was a very sacred time for everybody. And another experience, we had private access to the Great Pyramid. So we got up very early to see the sunrise. So did all that, and then up we climbed and into the king's chamber where there's this huge granite sarcophagus. And I had read a lot of stories about people who've had the night in the Great Pyramid, lay in the sarcophagus, and had really amazing experiences taken into different dimensions, meeting up with entities, etc., etc. So we went in there, we did some chanting, we did some meditation, did some energy work with each other. And then the guide said, look, you all have a chance to lay in the sarcophagus for 5 minutes each if you want to. So I'm like, I'm so in there. So anyway, so everyone was hopping in there and doing their thing. And so I lay back, and the minute and they had turned all the lights off, so it was totally black. And I thought, oh no, I lay back, closed my eyes, and the moment I did that, this deep, sonorous voice said in my head, "What is it you seek?" And I just automatically thought, I seek to be God more. And the moment I thought that, then my whole soul just got whoosh. I heard it. I whooshed out of my body, and I could feel myself sort of spinning like that, and then just moving at a huge accelerated pace. And then I went totally unconscious. Anyway, so I had my 5 minutes, and when I came back, afterwards, when in the hotel, I said to Tabaash, "Hey, what happened to me? When I went unconscious?" And he said, "You did a lot of resetting, a lot of realignment, and a lot of gathering. And so when you come back to New Zealand, it's going to start unfolding." And it sure as it's just every day, just something. It's more like a clarity is presented, a feeling is presented, an idea is presented. And when we say to ourselves, where does all this come from? And then when I had thought that, I thought, well, it's just coming from me, because I was, given that energy, I was given that information. And so, we gather so much information, but I think we are in too much of a hurry sometimes to know what to do with it. So we have to allow the natural, process of things just to do what they need to do. And I've realized also it's got a lot to do with the frequencies, the energies that we're involved in. And because every place we live in is its own vibration. And when we're in an aligned position, I realize that we're able to activate what we gathered when we're in a particular place. And you know, we call it the right timing and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's just, you know, the moment has arisen where you have such an alignment with a person or a place or a situation, and then suddenly, kaboom, you know, some information presents itself, or you create some sort of fundamental change in yourself. So go to the Temple of Dendara.
So Blair,
If
is
you
that
take
what you
another
managed
group
to-
in a year or two, we'll all sign up.
Yeah. It wasn't my group. This was something I was participating in.
Okay.
And so it was a woman called Jill Cole who lives here in New Zealand, and she lives
Yes.
down in South Island in Wanaka, and Jill I've known for a long time, and we did that. We met in Peru, where I was doing an event with Elba Weinman, and she got activated in Peru with her own work, and Tabaash activated her basically, and and she's just, you know, move forward the most extraordinary way. But coming back, it's definitely given me a lot of ideas about, like, I would really love to do a Tabash event in Egypt. I think it would be, you know, extraordinary. And I'm thinking about doing one in in Mexico actually. And so, because I met a lady there who, you know, said, look, you got to talk to me because we could do stuff like this. So, yeah, so I came back full of ideas and possibilities and all that sort of stuff, basically. So, but yeah, it was thrilling, you know, and then you come back to, you know, when I went from 40 degrees to 9 degrees, and so sort of a bit of a reality check as such. But yeah, it was extraordinary. I was in Egypt in 1989, 90, and it was a completely different experience then because it wasn't as developed in regards to their tourism and their temples and things. So it's a lot more developed now and cleaner and, you know, a lot more orderly. Whereas, you know, when I was there at 89, 90, you just could wander anywhere, basically.
Right.
But I do advise that if you ever do anything like this, do a group situation and you know, and make sure that they have a good tour guide with you. We had a guy who was a Egyptologist and an archaeologist, and he was very mind, body, spirit. So he saw way beyond what archaeologists believe in everything, and it just made it so much easier. And you know, we were even met at the airport by an agent, and we didn't have to go through customs. They just took us through the diplomatic area.
Nice.
And so all these little things, you know, like that. And it just when you don't have to think about stuff, then you can just simply, you know, allow yourself to unfold and enjoy the whole experience rather than worrying about, you know, how do you get a taxi and how do you do this and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, but yeah, do it, go, you know, this moment, sign up. So,
Right.
It's on the
I've
bucket
known
list.
a few people that have done tours in Egypt
mm,
with people from Egypt that
yeah,
are spiritual,
yes,
and every single one of them had such amazing spiritual
yeah,
experiences.
yeah. One thing Tabash taught me is that, you know, Egypt is being highly activated at this particular point. And because it was always a place where, you know, everything was in an alignment with higher consciousness, but also, and I didn't realize this, is that all the temples, all the pyramids, etc., are actually in alignment with certain star systems.
Mm,
Yep.
yeah.
And so of course, and that's of course a frequency or vibration. So there's this pattern that goes through the whole of Egypt going down. You know, that's totally alignment with the stars and astrology. And so, you know, I mean, they obviously knew what they were doing, you know, in understanding higher energies and working with these levels of consciousness, particularly when you look at how they put together these temples. And it wasn't just putting a temple together, it was a mathematical equation that was in alignment with higher vibrations. So a lot of sacred geometry and sacred physics is the best way they'll all actually put it, which also aligns, you know, with the physics of our own selves as we develop
Right.
more. So, yeah. Anyway, Tabaash is hovering in the background, sort of looking at me and going like, he's gonna get on with
It's my
it.
turn.
Well, we could talk to you for ages as well.
Oh, darling,
We'd
thank
be
you. That's
happy to
really
just
nice.
talk to you.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Anyway, I'll bring Mr. T through and I'll talk to you guys afterwards. So have a cool time and I'll see you later on. Okay.
Thank you, Blair.
Hello.
Hello, Blair.
Hello.
Tabaash.
Hi,
Hi.
Tabaash.
It's all right. I get called lots of things. I'll just have some water here. I was thinking about the last time I talked to you all, and I see within you all the advancement of your relationship with yourselves. And when you have an advancement, then of course what you're doing is that you're being more of yourself on a conscious level. So everything that you get involved in now, whether it's something you would read or watch or your own personal experience, because you've been quite consistent in your development, you have daily activation. And that daily activation actually comes through just the very living that you're involved in. When you truly make your life and everything about it your personal self-development course, then that's where you're always in alignment with exactly what vibrations, what energies, what versions of yourself that are important. Many of you have heard me say, you are gods. As gods, you are the power. You are the vibration. You are the answers. If you're the power, then in your human experience, it really is a simple matter of deciding, well, today, how shall I use my power? And if you could just relate it in that particular way, it makes it a lot easier to understand what you can make for yourself in your mind, in your body, in your spirit. So if you start off your day saying to yourself, I will use my power to be the best version of myself, then automatically you brought that energy through. So as a God on this planet, you're all the time looking for different versions of yourself. You don't just find those versions in human form and people in your life, etc. As the God frequency, as source power, whatever you wish to call it, you're going to find the version of yourself in your personality, in your thoughts, in your emotions. You'll find it in your jobs. You'll find it in the places you live, the countries you visit. You're going to find it in everything. So therefore, as a developing soul, you get more conscious of, well, what versions of myself seem really, really important for me to experience. But then, as you all have discovered too, what versions of myself are no longer necessary? And these are not versions that are wrong versions, because nothing really is. It's just, I don't need to experience myself in that way anymore. And so that's where you change. You remove something from your life. You step away from something. You reorganize your personal stories. And so this time in human history, there's enormous amount of greater power of life that's available to you all, because that's just how it is. It's just there. It's been activated. Of course, as you all have seen in your own experiences, there's so much counterproductive energy that's been thrown out by the powers that be and people who don't want people to turn the lights on. Because when you have everyone turning their lights on, then what's going to happen to the people who are doing the driving and in charge? And so there is literal concerted efforts to keep you down, to keep you dumb. And that's why when you look at media, when you look at things, it's always about what's wrong in the world. It's never about what's right in the world. You know, there might be a small little amount of energy that is projected that says, you know, this is the good things that are happening. But the majority is, you know, the problems with the economy or the problems with the social consciousness or politics or whatever. And it's bringing out in people a lot of unsettledness and fear and worry and concerns and taking them away from your light. And so souls like yourselves are so important because the very fact that you're consciously developing and being consistent with it is encouraging more light. And, you know, I can't stress enough the importance of unification because it's the separateness that pulls people away from the power. And so when energy comes together, then the power is more activated. And so that's where, if you think about this, even in the sense of yourself, your physical, your emotional, your mental, etc., when you're holding it in together, then you make it happen. You make your life work. You make your life be what you choose. You use your power in the way that's important for you. All of you, you're definitely at a position in your life where you no longer ever need to work on yourself ever again. Instead, you work with yourself. Because when you work with yourself, it's a whole different set of dynamics. When you work on yourself, then you'll always find some issue or some corner you feel you have to turn or whatever. Working with yourself engages you 100% in all the best versions of yourself that you could possibly be. So as you go through the rest of 2025, you know, it's not about what was that all about for me, etc., etc. But it should be instead asking yourself, why was that a powerful year for me? Why was that a successful year for me? Why was that a year where I achieved a great deal of my own development in my mind, in my body, and in my spirit? What was my response to life? And therefore, what am I doing with it? How am I feeling it? And from that position, what do I choose to do with it? And so that's, you know, important for all of you to put this question to yourself. For the rest of the year, how do I choose to use my power? And don't just throw any old thing out. Consider carefully, you know, what that means to you. Consider carefully your life as it is at this particular point. Consider how your mind, your body, and your spirit has its needs. So when you take things into consideration, then you're allowing yourself to set a pace that's totally unique to your own frequency and your own vibration. Remember, all of life is there. All of everything is there. All the power is there. I have given this teaching this year, which is to God, there's no such thing as creation or manifestation, because that implies time. And time is not something that the God frequency is involved in. So the God frequency is consistently investing in itself with respect, with love. And in that respect and love, it just builds up its power. It builds up its power. It builds up its power. And then at some point, that power has to be expressed. So God doesn't go, oh, what should I do with this power? What should I manifest? What should I create? God just simply pays attention to itself, recognizes what it has a feeling for, and then makes choices. And the moment it makes choices, then more life is established. You're no different. And so you're investing in yourself. You're building up your own power. You're building up your own energy. And then invariably it presents itself to you as an idea or a feeling of something. But then what happens is that human nature throws an emotion onto it. And so when you throw an emotion, human emotion onto it, then that's where you can often dilute the power and the clarity of an idea. Because that's when one might overthink it, or one might go, oh, what should I be doing with that? Or you might bring in an emotion of doubt or fear or uncertainty, or you might be affected by, oh, there's no point in doing that because the way the world is at the moment, etc., etc. So whereas, of course, the God vibration never has that at all. It's completely pure in the way that it expresses. And so, something that you may wish to consider before the end of this year is, what conditions am I still putting on myself that are denying me of more clarity? What human emotions am I still involved in? What versions of myself am I still allowing myself to be? Which I realize, well, that version is actually getting in the way now of this new version. And all you humans are going through a big upgrade at this particular point. And as you go through this upgrade, then you're doing some interesting things. And I'll take the word release. So you're doing a lot of emptying, so you're releasing, but you're also breaking that down. You're releasing. So you're signing a different contract with yourself. And as you sign that different contract with yourself, then the new versions that you've evolved into, well, they see everything differently. They feel differently. They project themselves differently. And this doesn't mean that you have to go out there and suddenly alter your life dramatically. But you end up, as you humans have said, see everything in a different light. So when you see everything in a different light, that light is shining through a version of yourself that's more. And that version of yourself has more access to more of everything. Right through the history of consciousness, as I said, that God energy just builds. But sometimes what has occurred is that the energy just builds and builds and builds. And as it keeps building, then the God energy just allows itself to just consider itself more. And every time it considers itself more, it's adding more power to itself. And so that energy builds more and more and more and more. So it's not that God is holding out on itself or hesitating. It's just wanting to put more power into what it is considering. And then, and this is what's happened, it then has this huge explosion of energy, kaboom, like this. And everything that is everything is impacted by that. And so this is what's happened to all of you. You've been impacted by this enormous power that the God vibration has just building up on. And this is a good way of defining what humans call in science and physics the Big Bang. So the God energy just built up such a power, and then it just got to the point where it just, boom, it just expressed in the most enormous way. And then in that, what happens is more life is established on a higher level of consciousness. And so because you've been impacted on it, then this has rattled you. So it's shaken you all up, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So suddenly the belief systems that you may have understood need to also evolve. And as you keep on expanding in your own lives, it's so imperative to keep putting to yourself fundamental questions, but they are rhetorical questions. So it's not about finding an answer. It's like saying to yourself, well, what makes me powerful now? And instead of waiting for an answer, it's like you're making a statement. And when you make those statements, then what you do is you yourself project an energy, project an intention. And in that intention, and this is happening a lot for all of you, you meet up with a particular frequency that aligns with your intention. Remember, everything's just there, waiting for you to, as you humans say, raise your game. You know, when master teachers like Yeshua, who you people know as Jesus, when he would heal somebody, he would always look at them and he would say to them, do you believe? And he wasn't asking, do you believe in me and what I can do for you? But do you believe in you? And if he saw in them that they believed in themselves, then that means that their vibration was able to reach up to match who his energy was. And that's how healing comes about. You know, think about many times when people, you know, I've had people who've sat here before me who are skeptics and go look at me and go, well, tell me something about myself no one knows, you know. And I straight away say, look, this is not going to work, you know, because, you know, it's a balance of power. And if you're just going to sit there waiting to be convinced, then you're just going to go away feeling disappointed. And so when you approach life on all levels, whether it's spiritual, mental, emotional, whatever, you've got to have an openness and a belief in yourself to lift your consciousness up. And when you lift your consciousness up, then what are you doing? Well, bang, that's when you're able to receive. And so, you know, when people suddenly see the light, it's because their belief in themselves has been activated. And then the moment it's activated, then they actually sense and see what's always been there. And that's why I always say nothing is ever to be found. You know, it's just there. But if you put more attentiveness to raising your game in your mind, in your body, in your spirit, well, then you lift your consciousness up, which gives you access to everything that's always there. There's nothing hidden. And so, you know, think about to the God energy. It doesn't need to create and it doesn't need to manifest because it is everything. And everything is just always there. And you're no different. But because you decided to be incarnate in physical bodies on a planet that offers up all these experiences, it's about finding the balance of that. And so remember, you all started off as light beings, and then you developed into human beings. And as you developed into human beings, and you got caught up into different physics. And so you locked yourself up into, you know, the laws of physics, which denied you of your light. You still had the feeling of it and the idea of it, because if you look through human history, there's plenty of evidence to show that people have always had a belief in something that was beyond the human nature. And it may have been very primordial, but it was just always there. And so as you've all developed, now you're in this process, and I'll just put it this way, this process of dehumanizing yourself. And as you dehumanize yourself, you're returning yourself back to your original light state. So going back to being a light being, you're able to direct your human being state with the light. And as you turn more lights on, then that's where, as I've said before, you know, as God, you got to direct your power. Hey, human nature, it's me, God, here. This is what we're doing. This is what we're thinking. This is what we're feeling. So 2026 is very much a year of light. And because it's a year of light, it means you will sense more and see more and feel more and experience more. And the collectivity of human consciousness has raised its game to such a degree where more and more information about everything is being disclosed. Because humanity en masse has suddenly said, hey, we're not going to sit in the dark room. We're going to be in the light now. And of course, those who want you to stay in the dark, well, they don't like that. So they'll do everything they can to throw out ideas and information or whatever. But for those like yourselves who see the light, then, oh, no, I'm not buying into that because I have choice. That's not the choice I make. I'll use my power in a different way and just leave that vibration alone. That's why it's so essential to turn off to the versions of yourself that you realize, well, that really isn't necessary in any way whatsoever. It's not wrong, so don't look at it like it's wrong. Don't go and put an emotion onto it like, that's bad or that's wrong or that's evil and that's the dark forces and all that sort of stuff. Because you get into that, then that itself creates a frequency. You're all beings of light with all the power, and how can you amplify the qualities that you all possess? And that's why, as I said, stop working on yourself. Work with yourself. Work with what makes you powerful, with what makes you successful, happy, etc. Pay attention to that. And also, there's some of you, be very careful about allowing yourself to get distracted by other people's issues. Because, if you do that, then you're just being pulled into a frequency that there's a phrase here in New Zealand, that has bugger all to do with you. It's to do with them and that vibration. Yes, it's a version of yourself, but when you decide no longer to be involved in that version, then that's when you free yourself up to be the ultimate choice that you are presenting to yourself. And as there's more light being presented, then the awareness levels are raising collectively. So there's far more awareness that's happening. And that awareness activates all of the codes of life that your soul is involved with. And therefore that trains you up even more to be more receptive. It trains you up to be the light being directing your human being in, I'll call it, a superhuman way. And I'm not talking about superhuman like Superman stuff, but superhuman as, clarity and conciseness and understanding and knowing, and not having to deal with all the stuff that people are creating. There's so many diversion tactics that humans create for themselves through their emotional energies. And they don't even aware that they're actually doing that. And so look at your own tactics, but then also look at the collective tactics that you can see, your communities are involved in, your cities are involved in, etc., that digress you away, from what's really essential. And the other thing I thought about 2026 is it's an essential ingredient year. So when you have essential ingredient years, you have years where your thoughts, your words, your deeds are essential power sources for you. And so when you recognize that these are essential ingredients, you understand that these are components that you can use by putting together the formulas. And when I mean essential ingredients, I don't just mean in spiritual terms. I'm talking about your life, everything about you, whatever you're doing. What is the essential ingredients of my business, of my relationship with my family, of my health and well-being, etc., etc. So, but also essential ingredients for my possible futures is an important thing to be conscious of. And so you all decided to do what you're doing in regards to your self-development. And so you're all being more conscious of the fact that you are in a position, you have a placement on this planet. And so exactly where you're placed is exactly where you understood, I need the influences of this placement. Am I making the most of where I am? Am I making the most of the situations in my life? Am I allowing myself to be truly involved with the idea that I'm simply standing in my own power and just deciding simply how to use that power, how to breathe that power, how to feel that power, just in the structures of my life. And always people are presented with opportunities to grow, to change, to evolve, to look at yourself through your own responses and reactions to things. And you don't have to do a lot of purging, but it is important to know when to close off things. And that's why, in the past, I've taught people at the end of your day, empty yourself of the day's energy. That's so important because you don't want to accumulate layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. Each day, that day's finished, or that meeting, or that moment as such. Anyone want to ask me any questions or make comments? I have some water for Blair's voice.
Jay, you want to start off?
Hi, Tabaash.
Hello, Jay. Blessings.
Blessing. Okay, so um it was really really important before you came on, because Blair was talking about the pyramids in Egypt,
Yep.
and a couple of days ago I had a kind of a dream or something. It wasn't a dream, but a vision, and the vision was of a pyramid. Um, and the pyramid had writing on the left-hand side on one of the stone walls, and I don't know how to read it, or I don't know what it means.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just found it fascinating that you started off with talking about Egypt. And is there some kind of collective thing that's happening on the planet right now connected to Egypt and activation? Because I feel like
Mm, mm, mm. You
perhaps
said
that's
it.
why it came.
Yeah, you just said the word. It is an activation thing. And, for the whole planet, there are pyramids. And these pyramids are all linked in. And some of them have eroded down. There's actually a lot of pyramids, even subterranean.
Mm.
So there's a lot of, stuff that humans aren't aware of. And with the way that the consciousness is everything has lifted. So I'm thinking about the earth itself too, because that
Mhm.
has a consciousness. And that consciousness has lifted up too. That has evolved. So as that energy has evolved, well, this is quite fascinating, this, because what has happened in through human history, as humanity, when humanity was in harmony with the earth's frequency, then the Earth's soul was able to project its frequency in such a way where it was able to sustain mind, body, and spirit energy with all the beings and the energies on the planet. And so those early beings who understood this, then when they would build their temples and their buildings and things like that, they were aligned 100% in tune with the soul of the earth. Now, of course, what's occurred is that with the exploitation of the earth and the way that I know that they use this in a different term, but I'm going to use this words. When the Dark Ages came about,
Yeah.
then what happened is that, and I'm not kidding here, the Earth's soul shut itself off for people to receive in the way that it used to. It can't shut itself off 100% because it's about, but I mean, the earth energy is a living thing. I mean, it's like you guys, if you hang out with somebody that you don't want to be with, when you take yourself away from it. And so the earth energy, it's like, what are you doing? You're disrupting the balance of what everything is. So it started to slow the frequencies down. And as it slowed the frequencies down, then this is where, there's just almost like a nothing feeling. That was the end of the sort of esoteric times on the planet, where humans just got so locked into in the battles. And this is where there's so many, if you look through then conflicts and battles and all the killings and the fightings and, the slaughters and things like that. And then, of course, everything is cyclic. So therefore, the cycle of humanity, the cycle of souls changed. So you had souls who were coming onto the planet who were able to reactivate. And this is what's happening now. So there's a lot of souls with their awareness who are all able to reactivate all that's actually happening. And so all of the different pyramids, and they're all connected because originally, when it was worldwide, they were like a grid of energy. And it would be drawing from the Earth's energy and it would be sending, energy around. And this was able to create perfect atmospheres, perfect harmonies. I like to call it the one thought consciousness. So the one thought consciousness was all prevailing. And therefore the peoples, who lived on the earth then, they were aligned to the one thought consciousness. So they were all in harmony. And therefore there was, as you humans would call it, paradise, basically. And so with this reactivation that's occurring at this particular point, it's an interesting sort of concept because it is what you humans have called a sort of an Armageddon, the fight between the good and the bad sort of energy. And what it is, it's just more to do with the activation of light and displacing the energy of ignorance. And as the energy of ignorance moves away, then the light prevails. As the light prevails, it starts to send more of that message to the earth soul. So the earth soul's waking up more. As the earth soul wakes up more, it starts to send its vibrations out. And as it does so, then a lot of the temples and things that have been asleep for a while suddenly get more activated.
Yeah.
And so there's this awareness which creates activation for anybody who's involved in their self-development, even in the most minute way. They're going to be impacted by that, and that impact first comes to you through you have a different power flowing through you now. Your physiology changes with this new vibration, so therefore you seek for the harmony. So again, it's like the one thought consciousness. And so in that dream, because you've obviously, Jay, your awareness is such where you're able to know this, see this, understand this, and therefore when you saw the symbols that were on there, they basically were activation symbols. And so the fact that you saw the symbols means that your soul read the symbols, and as your soul read the symbols, then that automatically activated something in you and made a connection with you in a different zone. And when I'm talking about activation, I'm not just talking about man-built things. This is also nature as well, because there are places in nature where there is an activation, like Uluru in Ayers Rock, in Perth, in Australia. So that's an activation place. And there's
Amazing.
so there's another area which is, there's I temple on it, but the area of what's called Mount Olympus in Greece. That itself is also an ancient activation in a natural sort of way.
Yeah.
And so all through areas, I'm just looking at them. Mount Fuji in Japan, that's an activation place. So, but they're dotted around all over the world. So all these things are becoming more active again. And of course it shifts the energy and it changes the energy.
Yeah,
And
you get it. Yeah. It's the
yeah,
golden age. The rise of the golden age is going to come through the pyramids, is what I'm getting.
yeah. But see it as what I was saying before about, I now choose to use my power to be aligned with this vibration, with this energy. And so it's about, allowing yourself. I'm now working with the power of this. But remember, it's a process, and it's not something to be overthought about. It's about, because remember, the God energy, it doesn't think, so it doesn't think like you humans do. It's a different process. And therefore your soul is doing that very thing. So you've got two levels of things going on at the moment. You've got your human brain, which is thinking, but then you have your soul, which is, and just for the sake of the teaching, I'll say you begin to think as God, but even though you're not thinking. And so these two vibrations are now meeting up. So you get this polarizing of energy. And when you get that polarization, you get this meld of higher consciousness, which creates its own formula, which activates within you all the God codes that are actually happening. And another area that I'm really, really interesting to watch over the next years is all the Scandinavians, because that's an enormous activation place. In Denmark, Sweden, Iceland, or all that, that whole area is a real ancient vibration place. And one of the areas that's quite strong to watch out for is what humans call Lapland. And so there's big vibes going on up there at this particular point. But you see, a lot of these places are also very much portals for other frequencies, other dimensions. And so, but also too, the star people have often used these arenas and areas. They've used, up in the Andes in South America. They've used those areas, and that's a lot to do with the lack of population, so that they could quietly just do what they need to do. Look at Hawaii. There's a lot of activity in Hawaii at this particular point. So there's going to be a lot more discoveries of things, and and just the way that the world changes are occurring. There's going to be a sort of a drop of sea level at some point, which will suddenly disclose things that people never knew existed, civilizations, all those sorts of things, and that humanity is going to try to make a story about it, and so it's like the flow and ebb of consciousness, the flow and ebb of energy. I mean, how exciting to be alive at a time where you're involved in all of this, and okay, it touches you in the way that is relevant to your life and where you are. And so, but it's a frequency thing. So every time something more is disclosed, then there's more vibration. There's more frequency. What is that
Is
noise?
there a particular pyramid that
Yeah.
like each of us are kind of aligned to? Because each pyramid, like you
Mm.
said, it's a connection all over the planet, and the
Yeah.
pyramids are placed in certain places.
Yeah.
Are we like in our DNA or genetically at like a link to a particular? Because when I'm having this vision, it's
Mm.
for me, I feel it as a particular pyramid on
Yes.
on
Okay.
Earth at the
Yeah. Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. It is not that you're all linked in specifically, but it's all to do with choice. So what happens is that your soul recognizes of those vibrations which one best serves you.
Okay.
And so therefore, as you project your vibrations, then of course your higher nature is linking you in to what it believes that's a specific frequency for you.
Okay.
But there is one pyramid in what's called Saqqara, which they call the step pyramid. And that very much has quite an alignment with a majority of souls. And yet it's still always going to be about choice. Always remember, it's always about choice. Remember, because you're the center of everything. You are control central all the time. And that's why I always say to people, life does not happen to you. Life happens because of you. And so when you realize it's all because of the way you're emanating signals, then you're going to align to exactly what is specific to you. It's impossible for something to happen to you. It can't happen, because you're
Wow.
God.
Okay.
And so it's all about you all the time. It's all about you. That's why at this particular time in history, you've got to acknowledge, therefore, what do I choose? But be, realistic in your choices. And it should be easy because you could just relate it to your beliefs at this point in your life at this point. I can assure you that there will always be more.
Yeah.
And so when you make your alignments and you make your connections and you have your experiences, don't start thinking about, oh, what's next? Don't start thinking about, oh, I wonder where this is leading to, because that automatically takes you away from where you are. Whereas
Okay.
it's about, okay, I'm having this experience and this is important and I'll align as much as I can, whatever. And then you will be given information or something will occur to take you to your next experience. But
Yeah.
you see, human nature is always hanging out for the next one before they understand where they're standing, what they're all about, you see. So,
I did get like when I was having it, I didn't feel like I have to go to a particular pyramid like on the earth. Like I don't need to go to
Mm,
Egypt. And
mm,
I don't know the location of this one, if I'm honest with you. It didn't I did the conscience didn't tell me the location, but it told me that it is a particular pyramid on earth.
yep.
But I
Yes.
don't and so I'm but I don't like it's not telling me to go there, it's just telling me to meditate upon that experience to
Yep. Yes.
and activate some kind of codes and frequencies that are running through my body into the
Yes.
pyramid that's coming, because that
Yes.
pyramid is, like you just said, the pyramids are getting activated now, and I just need to play my part in activating that particular one
Yes. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's aligned to what I'm getting is it's aligned to my past life, parallel life frequency, and it's linked to one of my, so you can say a previous incarnation.
Hmm.
Um, so therefore my DNA and a lineage
Yep.
and a role that I
Yes.
played,
Yep.
and they're
Yep.
telling me to step into it now, and so I
Yes.
fully activate this pyramid.
Formula.
I was confused as well. I thought, is this a pyramid on Earth or is this my individual
Mm,
pyramid, as in for
mm,
my particular body or soul? And does every human have a particular pyramid for
yep.
their body or soul?
Yep.
So I didn't know that, but why I'm getting more that it is actually a
Yep.
life, past life.
Yes. Well, when you speak of it, I asked your guidance, and the area you're speaking of where you felt this is in the area called Memphis in Egypt.
Okay.
And Memphis is a ancient, like a real ancient place.
Yeah.
And so it is in that area. And this is not the Memphis of Elvis. And so this is Memphis of Egypt. And so, but and I can see beings as I'm saying this. So um, what just came to me was a very long time ago, you left something behind that you needed to take back. And so that's what your energies are doing now. So you put something in storage. And so now as you're evolving, then you'll take him back because you know this is a time that you needed to use this vibration. And it'll be interesting to see where this leads to. And if you could see how we see it with all these pyramids and places that are being activated, and this has been actually photographed in some cases in certain places, where you'll just see a beam of light that's just emanating from the top of a mountain or a pyramid or a structure. And it just goes just up. And it's just making connection with certain formulas that are being established for the collective consciousness of this planet at this particular point. And if you could see yourselves at this particular point, it's the same thing. But in your cases, it's not just one beam of light, but every cell of your body now is sending out a frequency, a beam of light. And if you think about how many trillions of cells that you have in your physical body, then you've got these trillions and trillions and trillions of lines of light that are now emanating from any developed individual's mind, body, and spirit. And so what this is doing is allowing you to make these links with higher levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
So you're reaching out in doing so. And all of you are being given, fed information that is presented through your meditations, through your group situations, through your dream states, and at times even in your awakening states, where some of you have experienced suddenly a slight altered state of consciousness, where you've suddenly felt like you've just sort of stepped out of yourself for a moment, or an expanded sense of awareness. So there's, so much like that's happening at this particular point. And also too, there's a lot of greater intelligence that's getting closer and closer to this planet at this point. And as this greater intelligence is getting closer, you're beginning to feel the influence of that energy, which is a really positive energy. And one of the things they're working with is to send energy to balance out all of the places of conflict on the planet.
Yeah.
And so that's why, regardless of the fact that there's still conflicts, they seem to be more centralized into certain areas, but it's just almost as if it's just evened out. So it's not as bad as it could have been, because the influence of these intelligent energies are ensuring that that doesn't actually happen, because it's not in anybody's vested interest, for humanity to destroy itself. And that's why there's always been intervention. So there's a lot of intervention that's actually occurring, at this particular point. And so you're turning corners, but the more you raise your own levels individually, the easier it's actually going to be. And so, in the moment I said that, I suddenly saw each of you with you're all familiar with your Merkaba. And so I just saw the energy of that around each of you, and it's all spinning rather fast. So there's been a lot of that type of activation, that's been occurred. And of course, this is in alignment also with your energy centers. And so you have to do your part by simply being the best version of yourself that you can be. You have to do your part by deciding, how am I going to use my power? I'm plugged into it. It's there. I have to use it now. I don't have to find it. There's no manual. Here's the manual that says, how do you do this? That's your choice through your intention, through your ideas, through your actions, through all the different formulas that you've got going on in your life. You have awareness, therefore you've made available to you everything. And I'm not just talking about the God force, I'm talking about all the different dimensions, what you humans would call your guides. But what are you making available to the on earth? What is stimulating you? What is aligning you? Watch for the signs. The signs are there. And sometimes they're really, really obvious. In January, we were in Australia, January before, doing a seminar in Sydney. And Blair was staying in this place called Rose Bay, because that's where the seminar was, or the conference center was close by. And Bondi Beach, which was a famous beach, was very nearby. So he thought he's just going to go for a chill walk, etc. And he was considering, at that point in his life, changes he needed to make, where he needed to be. Does he still need to live in Wellington? Should he sell his house, move somewhere else, start a new life, etc., etc. You see. So he just jokingly said to us, well, show me a sign. Anyway, so he turns the corner and his mouth dropped open and he burst out laughing. He said, here's a street, one going that way, one going that way. And one of the signs was Blair Street. And the other was Wellington Street, which is where he lives in Wellington. And he just looked up and he goes, we can't get any more obvious than that. And look, it is like that sometimes. You get these signals that are just so obvious. But even then, some people will just go, oh, that's spooky. That's a coincidence. And so life's talking to you. But the way your life speaks to you is because of what you're saying. So when it speaks back to you, it's like having a conversation with yourself, with your mind, your body, and your spirit. So what you get back is based entirely on the conversations you've been having. And so that's why, as I said, it's not, outside of you. You're talking all the time, whether you know it or not, whether it's literally or in a thought or feeling, an action, an expression, or whatever. You're talking all the time. And of course, life it's not going to be a one-way conversation. Life's going to talk back to you. And so therefore, when you look at your life, then you got to think, am I happy about what's being told me, said to me? Am I happy about what I'm saying to myself? And so just be alert to that, be aware of that energy, you see. So 26 again, activation time. And so you're going to be more activated. You've invested really well in your self-development. So use it. That's why you have it. You know, it's not just something to, you know, think, oh, that's nice. Hang on a minute. I'll just go and sort of give it a bit of a dust, you know, that sort of thing that people do, you know, or suddenly after a while people go, oh, I wonder why I put that there. What is it actually? Why am I, you know, so, you know, if you have it, use it. It's there for the moment. You know, it's not about, I'll save that for a rainy day or when the right time is and all that sort of stuff. That doesn't exist. You know, if you have power, use it. If you have clarity, use it. If you have well-being, live it. You know, it's not just presenting yourself in a certain way. It's living in that way as well. And you know, the esoteric civilizations, this is what they understood. They understood about living in that one consciousness with all their qualities. And that's where they're able to pull together the frequency which supported everyone else's skills and talents and abilities, etc. So there was no such thing as conflict or conflict of interest or anything of that nature. No such thing as diseases and disharmonies and distresses and disabilities and all those diseases. You know, it just didn't exist. You know, and so when everything falls to pieces, then that's what happens. You know, life becomes something that's disabled. So you disabled the world when you forgot that you were light. And in your own ways, in your own journey in this lifetime, you've found little ways where you've disabled yourselves, just through thoughts or emotions or experiences or such. But then you were wise enough to become more able again. So you took how you disabled yourself and changed it. And you did that because you're God who has choice. I gotta go. I'll bring Blair back. I love you. Blessings to you. Blessings to you all.
Right.
Bye for now.
Great question, Jay.
Hello.
Hey, Blair.
Wow. Lots of knowledge.
That's good. Sorry, I'm a bit
Amazing.
spacey here. My 6 chakras going like this. So I have some water. Oh. Right. I've pulled myself back in here. So
Blair, we
So,
appreciate
Blair-
you making accommodation for us today.
oh, look, it's a pleasure. And my apologies for having to cancel you at the last moment. So
Well,
That's
it worked out
fine.
much
Works
better
for
for everyone.
me. It was perfect for me.
oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, yeah. No, I woke up that morning and I must have been sleeping on. I got this sudden like eye infection, you know, that came up, you see. And anyway, so I took myself off to A&E, and so after waiting around for 7 hours, as you do in places like that, so they end up putting drops and things like that. And what I'd done is I'd scratched my cornea or something. So
That's painful.
yeah, you know, but you know, just to say it wasn't a good look to do a seminar or an event, basically. But even now, I've still got these drops, and it's dilated my eye. So I've got one big pupil here, and the other's normal. So yeah, but that's okay. I'm on the mend, basically. But yeah, it was a bit of a pain. So anyway.
Tabaash gave us a list of places that were activating in the world that I think we need to have a big tour. We've got a lot of
Yes.
places to go to.
That sounds good. Yeah.
We've got
Yeah,
Mount
it was really-
Olympus, Uluru, Mount Fuji, Scandinavia, which I've been to this year. And then I think the Step Pyramid, I can't think what that place is, and the Andes. Like a lot of places I went, wow, okay, this is
Yeah,
exciting.
okay, yeah. Look, I mean, there's more than that. I know, because I know there's some places up in Alaska, and then also way up in northern Canada, where up, way up, and I don't know what they call it. There's where the islands sort of go up. They're almost meeting up with Scandinavia areas. Yeah, so there's an awful lot that happening at this particular point. yeah, you really feel it, when you tune into it. You do really actually feel it.
And I was
So
this past summer, a couple months ago, and you feel the energies there, and I'm just wanting to go back and back.
yes, yeah,
Being from
no,
there, yeah.
yeah, no. Oh, look, it's just, if you have a chance and you can do it, and then say to people, go do it. And because it is like plugging in a really extraordinary way. I'm going to go in a minute, but I'll just share one more story. So we went to the Temple of Isis in Egypt, and we stayed in this really extraordinary eco hotel, which is built on cliffs, and just really amazing. But some of us, a group of us, said to somebody, "Oh, we really would love to go swimming in the Nile. Is there a place?" So the guide said, "Oh yeah, we could take you." So we went in the small boat. There's about 8 of us, and the Temple of Isis, as it is now, was actually moved when they built the Nasser Dam, and so it's in a different place. But what they did, they took us to where it used to be, and there was the temples coming out of the water, and so that's the area that we were swimming in. And and it was just, you could feel the vibe, and it was actually how it affected us all. It was quite amusing. We just suddenly became like kids. And it was just like this energy of just joy. We're just like this group of school kids just hopping off the boat into the water and swimming around the temple and that sort of stuff. And but the vibe of it was just, yeah, really, really, really powerful. And yeah, and it's just weird when you're pinching yourself. It's like I'm swimming in the Nile at the Temple of Isis, and and you look down and you can see it all under the water, and it was just, yeah, weird, just weird. But the power's still there, the energy's just still there. So
I was just gonna say, you said you had a problem with your eye.
yeah,
When you was telling me, the thing that came to my mind was the Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus. And that you've had a problem, come back from Egypt and you've had a problem with your eye.
oh, that's interesting. Oh, I got a goosey.
Yeah, like, because
Okay.
actually this place which this got down, like I got this yesterday, is like it activates the male or the solar masculine energy, and as you are in a male form, and it is the Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus that is the solar male energy there. So I don't know, maybe it's some type of linked activation.
Look, what you're saying is making complete sense to me. And yeah, so that puts a smile on my face. So and that fits in with some other information that I've received from Spirit. So
And
yeah,
did you go to the Memphis? Did you go to the temple?
I didn't go to Memphis. No, we didn't go to Memphis.
Okay.
Yeah. But what you've just said, I just remember now. And I've took so many photos. When we were in the Temple of Dendara and I was going up this area, I was drawn to all the hieroglyphs of Horus. And I took all these photos. When I was looking back on my Egyptian photographs, it's like, why did I take so many photos of that? So, and okay, I have to.
That temple that you went to, which god was it linked to, or which god who did they pray to?
It was linked to Isis.
That Dendara one as well.
Oh, the Dendara. Oh no, the Dendara one. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know if it was linked to any one particular. I'm just looking. Oh, Sekhmet.
Ah,
Yep. Yeah. So that's who it was connected to. So I've just been given that information. Oh, I got on goosey again. Anyway, I have to love you and leave you. So, mwah.
Blair, before you go, can I ask you one question?
Yep.
With all the teachings that you have done, what is
Yep.
the simple equation that you would think would be so important for all of us when it comes to having a joyful life?
I would say, I'm just base it from my experiences, is as much as you can, be conscious of your day-to-day journey, and just pay attention to your mind and your body and your spirit, and make sure that as you go through the day, just feed that frequency. And I know Tabaash, talks about we are God and stuff like that, but I forever affirm that energy, that concept through the day. And it just keeps me in an aligned position. And then there are times where, I get directed down specific ways. But yeah, I mean, to me, that would be the simplest way. It's like making your day-to-day life your self-development, and realizing that, we are the answer. It isn't ever out there, basically. So that would be the simplest thing I would say. Anyway, I really have to go because I've got to be somewhere. So, all right, Ma, love you guys.
Great to
Have
see
a great
you, Blair.
holiday period, and yeah, big hugs. Okay, bye for now.